it's been an up and down stretch of games here. Quite literally, as the Cats went 4-4 on this West Coast trip, and I was kind of worried about this trip, to be honest. Like, I think this was, mid case scenario for them, right? Was to end up 4-4 because you looked at it and it's like, hey, you got to play Denver. Now, unfortunately for them, I don't think Jokic played in that game. And in Phoenix, fortunate for them, I don't think Devin Booker played in that game because he's been out for a while. In Utah, everybody was healthy for Utah. That was a close game. Yep. I feel like that kind of came down to officiating, but it was what it was
tough.
there. Portland, you overcame an incredible Damian Lillard performance. Like, he was on fire of fire. The Minnesota game was just a little bit disappointing there. I think that's the one Mitchell got hurt in.
Yeah.
Yep. Mitchell went out, and that was rough. Or was that the Portland game? Because I think they won the game Mitchell got hurt in. I think he didn't play in the Minnesota game.
Oh, you're right. He didn't play at all in Minnesota. Yep.
Yeah. And then you lost him, and then Minnesota, unfortunately, didn't get that one, but you did get the New Orleans one, and then you came this close to getting the Memphis one. Just couldn't get the right possession down the stretch. And speaking of that possession down the stretch, I mean, like, it feels weird that we're doing this when the team is 28-18, and it feels weird that we keep having to go back to it. But, like, I mean, why do you think so many people are in a rush to get JB Bickerstaff? Like, what do you think it is that makes people, like, insecure about his ability to coach an NBA Finals team? And, well, not even just a good team. And, like, do you think coaching is what's going to stop this team? Like, ultimately, I don't think the limitation is the coach.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with expectations, which we talk about a lot. Like, our record right now is very similar to what our record was at this time last year. But at this time last year, we were kind of going in almost more of a downwards trend because we lost Ricky. We, after the All-Star break last year, we in general started in a downwards trend because of injuries and whatnot. This year, we're getting Ricky back at this time. So I feel like there should be more positivity about the trajectory for the rest of the season, but people seem to be more upset because they had some expectation that, I don't know if people thought we were going to be the 1 seed in the East or something, even though we all knew it was going to be competitive going into it. And then I think people want to scapegoat something in those situations, like regardless of if it's correct or not. It's so easy to go to coaching as something to blame, rather than, picking apart certain players. People just want to go to JB. And look, to your point about does coaching matter that much? I think we do put too much of an emphasis on coaching sometimes in any sport, not even just the NBA, because what matters as a coach, of course, like that end game decision making and those things matter. But at the end of the day, like the players are the ones who have to execute it. And sometimes things go well and sometimes things go poorly. And that's just the nature of the game. But the coach's job is really to manage the group that you have, be someone that is respected by everyone and putting all of those personalities together. And then just having I guess a level approach to the game. Competence is important. You don't want someone who's kind of, doing crazy things all of the time. So I feel like JB offers that. Like, he seems to be well respected and well liked by his team. And I think he's a competent coach, whether you agree with every call he makes or not. I still think he has done more good for this team than bad, which gives me no reason to want to move on from him whatsoever at this point in time. But I don't know how you're feeling about, what he's done this season or just the last couple seasons in general, I guess.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation with coaches because I think in the NBA especially, it matters the least because a lot of this is like even the end of game decision making. A lot of that's in the players' hands. You know what I mean? Yep. Like players can call timeouts on their own. Anybody can call a timeout in the NBA, right? Like I think there's only designated people that anybody can call a timeout in football. But like if you're the guard and you flash timeout, like nobody's looking at you for that timeout, right? Like it's either the quarterback or the coach that can really call it. I've never seen a wide receiver call a timeout and like get back in the game after it, right? Like so in the NBA though, like. You can call a timeout if you feel like you need a timeout, right? Darius Garland is definitely empowered to do that if he felt like they needed that. Also, like, the job isn't to be the genius in the NBA that draws up the play. Like, I think we think about that because like a lot of like movies have the guy and then he's drawn up this is going to be the one play that works and get us through it. But a lot of the times it's players in that huddle. It's usually your best player saying, no, we got to do this. I want him here. I need this guy here, and I need you to cut here so I can get this here. I'm going to have this option. Hey, Caris, if I'm not going to make this layup or if I don't have this lane, be open because it's coming. That's what it is. Like if you go through any mic'd up of Michael Jordan, you go through any mic'd up of LeBron, or honestly, it don't even have to be guys at that level. Like John Wall, when he was like the best player on the Wizards or something like that. That's usually how this goes, where it's like, hey, I'm going to do this. I want this ball screen. I want to get it at this depth. And then here's what I'm looking for after that, right? You just stay in the corner, RJ. Just stay in the corner space. It might come to you. If it's a long rebound, get it. But like stay in the corner, because we want that spacing there. But that's what it is. It's a collaboration more in the NBA when it comes to the game planning and the X's and O's of it. And it's not necessarily about the coaches. That's why a team like the Celtics, they're the best team in the NBA. They're 33-12. They have their second head coach, their third head coach in 3 years. Usually we're like, oh, what a disaster. They have 3 head coaches in 3. Right. No, it doesn't matter because you know who's actually like calling the plays in that offense? It's Jason Tatum. It's Jaylen Brown. And those guys have stayed together cohesive enough to where they're able to make those adjustments, right? The one guy who's been in Cleveland that was an X's and O's master was the one guy that got ran out by the franchise's best player, and that's David Blatt, right? Trying to come up with these plays. LeBron would always be like, yeah, David drew something, and I threw that out. And that was LeBron's way of saying, hey, this ain't EuroLeague no more, dog. Like, this is how this works in the NBA. I'm going to draw up the play. Like, that's what it is. And I think in college, it does work like that, right? And maybe overseas with some teams, it works like that. But in the NBA, it does not work like that because it doesn't work in the NBA when you do it because the talent in the NBA is so much drastically better than the talent in any other league comparative to any other sport. Like minor league hockey, the talent gap from minor league hockey to major league hockey is not the same as the NBA one, where it's like giant. It is a giant gap between starting 5 NBA quality players and then dudes that are playing in China. Like Dwight Howard out here averaging 40. He was a bum his last 2 years in the NBA. That should tell you all you need to know about how much different these guys are at that level. So when we talk about coaching, it's like, he's not calling the play there, right? Like he wanted a screen. Darius wanted a screen. He didn't want to take the screen, so he went off dribble right. And then nobody rotated over. There was no Donovan Mitchell to hold gravity, so the screen just didn't work. He ended up getting double trapped and had to take a bad shot. Like it just was what it was, right? And that has more to do with that's what he wanted to do. And Darius, he has to grow in that way. And Darius is only 22 years old. Like, right, it's gonna happen. We forget these dudes are super young too in the NBA, right? Where like mistakes are gonna happen. Donovan Mitchell's only 26. Right. He's the veteran on the team. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and when you think about Ty Lue, who coached that winning Cavs team, like I think that's why he worked so well. To your point, is that like he allowed LeBron to be that guy. Like I think not everyone can coach LeBron because they're not willing to put their ego aside and say like, hey, I know who runs this place here. And Ty Lue kind of did that. And he just was able to like step back from it. It's not because he was some mastermind brainiac coach that he was able to help us win a championship. It was because he was like, I know who I have on this team and I'm going to allow them to do their thing. And I think that was part of the reason it worked so well. So you are right. It's like, it's more about the players specifically and allowing them to flourish in their role rather than you controlling everything that they're doing.
It's interesting too because I own cat. I have like cats as my pets, right? And then some people have dogs. And I think this is like a fundamental difference between the two of us. Whereas like people who own dogs, like you can demand a dog to do something, and dogs are usually trained. You can't demand a cat to do anything. Everything is a negotiation with the cat, right? And I think that's the difference. Like people before they become a professional, you could demand them to do stuff and they will do it, right? Like that will happen. But with professionals, everything's a negotiation. Everything's a collaboration, right? And I think that's something that Ty Lue understood because he was a professional, right? He knew that somebody wasn't going to just tell him to do something and not explain it to him. He was like, hey, I know what you're thinking, but I really need you to be in this position. And to Ty Lue's credit, where he was great, and this is the same thing with guys like Phil Jackson or Steve Kerr, any championship winning coach, where they're great is that they're good negotiators. They're good people, right? So, LeBron wants to do this. Ty Lue might think, hey, That's a bad idea, right? Because LeBron doesn't have all the great ideas in the world. Sometimes he has bad ideas, right? And it's Ty Lue's job.
Is that a bad idea?
Yeah, like sometimes, Ty Lue has to go, hey, Brian, I understand what you're saying, but like, hear me out. This is why I think this is a bad idea. This is going to do this. We're not going to be able to stretch the offense like you think you are. I don't think you're going to have the same gravity. And then that's going to close up these things. And it's a constant negotiation of like, hey, this is what you want. This is what I want to see. This is the vision I see. And you got to figure out where that in between is for everybody. And that's what it is in the NBA. If you listen like how coaches talk about what they have to do and what their job is, and it's no coincidence, Steve Kerr, not the X's and O's guy, right? Like he is a team communicator, team kind of mesh guy. He always hires like high level coordinators to handle the X's and O's stuff. Phil Jackson, he could care less, right? Like he runs the triangle, but he runs the triangle because it's very simple. Get the ball to Michael, right? Like that's what the triangle is. Get the ball to Michael, he'll figure it out, right? He's not like gonna put guys in this spot and that and control it all. Pat Riley, right? He's not the guy that invented that run and shoot offense for the Showtime Lakers, but he's the one that got the most out of it because he kind of realized, hey, let Magic do it. Like a lot of this decision making has to go in the flow of things, and you can't want to micromanage professional basketball players because that's not going to be a success. So I think throughout NBA history, that's been a proven leadership style that works because this is just a different league than most, and especially when it comes to that because you can't always call a timeout and get in the huddle and get a play call in. A lot of times they're just going to have to put a finger up and run a play.
Well, that's going to give your best players like the confidence and feel empowered that when it does come down to those playoff games, when they have to make those decisions, that they can do it. You need to try those things throughout the regular season. You can't be a helicopter coach or, kind of like a helicopter parent, really, where you're like, I have to control their every move. And then when it comes to playoff time, the players kind of freeze up because they haven't been in these positions where they feel empowered to make those decisions. So I think, it's a long season and it's important to have those moments where DG can learn like, hey, maybe I should have done something different in this moment. And that's going to be okay. It's not the end of the season because of it.
Yeah. And it's also like, I was listening to, is it Jeff Van Gundy? Jeff Van Gundy's the little one, right? And he was talking about like, when he can tell teams are bad coached versus when like media thinks it. And it's like a lot of the media stuff is results based because that's what they're going to talk about is who won, who lost. Sure. But when he's watching the team and he's like, hey, are they well coached or not? A lot of it's just like looking at effort and looking at like, will to. And like you can say a lot about this Cavs team, good and bad. You can't tell me that the effort isn't there from this team. Like this team has come back down from 20 before, like multiple times. They're never taking themselves out. Like this is you might not like how they don't close sometimes, but like they get themselves in so many closing positions because they're always like, even on an off night, they're making an adjustment to, okay, now we're just going to drive a million times, right? Like the 72-point game Donovan Mitchell had, that was him just being like, I got to go to the cup because it ain't dropping right now.
Yeah. Well, and like people think we're not good at closing for some reason. Yeah. Like I know we've had those games where at the end you're like, gosh, wish we could have pulled that one out. We're like 6-0 or 7-0 in overtime. Like that's also closing games out. And I feel like people only focus on the ones where we don't do it. And they forget like being undefeated in overtime, pretty good. That's pretty good, I would say. It's pretty impressive. So I think it's easy to focus on the ones where it doesn't work like last night.
Yeah, and it's going to be more sensational to do it. And it's like, it does stink when your team does make a comeback and it kind of gets farted on because you don't win. Like, I understand the frustration there. Yeah. But also, like, when we're talking about, hey, we should fire JB, I feel like it should require more context. And we lost the game in mid-January to Memphis Grizzlies because, somebody didn't call a timeout. Like, that's kind of wild to do.
Well, the other one people want JB fired for, I think, is his use of Kevin Love at this moment in time, which I can get behind. Maybe a couple less Kevin Love minutes. He is struggling
let's talk about
from shooting.
Let's talk about like, is this a concern? Because every once in a while, I see Kevin Love puts up a very bad stat line. I'm like, well, it's Kevin Love, right?
He's old,
but it's starting to get to a point where it's like, oh boy, we need Dean Wade back because like I feel like what the solution is for Kevin Love might be what like the Celtics are doing with Blake Griffin, where it's like maybe Kevin plays every 3 games. You know what I mean? Like maybe he don't got it to go every night like he used to.
Yeah, I think his usage is definitely high right now, which is hard because I know like you don't want to just stop playing someone because they're going through a slump. Like everyone goes through slumps, and sometimes you need to just shoot your way out of it. Like you just got to keep going. But at this point, it's getting a little weird where you're like, okay, Kevin, we would really like to see a bit more production now. So I do think they're going to have to take down his minutes, but we just don't have that deep of a bench either. You know, it's like there's only so many options, so many rotations we can use.
Yeah, and it's like here's the right. I would think that he needs to do this, and this is something that people don't really associate with Kevin because for whatever reason he's got like this soft like label on him, but he plays a really physical game. Like he takes a ton of charges. He's down there like battling for rebounds. Like he's one of the more physical players on this team.
Yeah,
and he's old. So he needs to rest more, right? Like when I watch Kevin, I'm not seeing a player who's struggling shooting. I'm seeing a player who looks old, and I think that's because his body can't handle that no more, right? Yeah. And he had issues staying healthy early in his career, so it's not surprising now. But it's like I think like, man, they need somebody to come back for like the regular season, right? I think he'll be fine in the playoffs, but for like the regular season, like maybe a Dean Wade can come in there and take some of those minutes. Maybe even, now that Okoro is playing a little bit better at the three position starting there the last few games, which we're going to talk about next. Maybe Lamar Stevens can take that spot and just take some of those minutes from him, or maybe even play instead of him. And so Kevin can get that rest because I just don't think it's sustainable. He's second in the league in charges. Like every time he's out there, he's taking a beating. And it looks like it's just taking a toll on him. Like he's 36 or 37 years old.
Yeah, he's up there. You know, my best use case for Kevin Love would be that he does tamper down his minutes now. Like you maybe skip him some games here and there. And then when it comes playoff time, like game 2, randomly, he has like a 30-point game where he's just like nailing threes. And everyone's like, oh my God, we totally forgot they had Kevin Love and he was able to do that because he's been tampered down for a bit. I think that's my ideal Kevin Love scenario right now.
Every player has that moment when they go from hey, they had a good game. Look at that. That's another good Donovan Mitchell game, to when they have a good game, turning back the clocks. Kevin Love. Kevin Love is firmly into turning back the clocks. I can hear
Austin Carr saying it now. It's echoing in my ear, Austin Carr.
Oh, it's 2016 again, boy. It's going to be something like that. But we kind of touched on Issac. Issac, right? There's been a story out about how he's trying to fix his arc on his jumper. He's been putting in a lot of work over the last handful of weeks and months on that jumper, on that end. It looks like it's paying dividends. I mean, last night was probably like as close to a breakout as he's ever had, right? Where he made 6 of 6 from the field, 4 3-pointers, and 4 very important 3-pointers in that game, where if they win, we're talking about giving him that dog chain. And his defense has gotten better. The thing with Issac is when he's confident and he's out there, he's actually a good player. But when he's meandering and he's not confident, that's when you run into Issac getting a ton of foul trouble, and then he hesitates on jumpers, so he's taking your offense out of rhythm. Do you think this is a result of maybe Isaac's just a young player turning the corner, or do you think he's just having a hot streak numerically because he's going to get back to his numbers statistically, and maybe this is an opportunity for the Cats to move on while it appears like he might be turning the corner? Which side of that are you on?
Yeah, I'd like to err on the side of positivity, where I feel like he is such a young player. And from all accounts, like you said, he has been working extremely hard to improve his shot. I know Darius has mentioned in interviews where he is like, Issac is the hardest working player on this team. He is putting in the time in the gym to improve his shot. And like you said, it showed. It was his career high from 4 3-pointers, pretty monumental stuff for him. And I think it's only going to make him more confident when he sees that he can actually do that. I think mentally it was really getting to him early on in the season when he was finding little to no success shooting, that he just needed to start going on a bit of a run in order to gain that confidence. And look, I'm not saying this is going to be Issac all the time now. I don't think he's going to consistently be shooting at this level. It's obviously going to be somewhat of an outlier to be perfect shooting for one night. But in general, I would like to think that this is just a positive trajectory for him, rather than just like a random blip in the middle of the season that is going to go away and not appear again. But curious what you think about it.
He's 9 for 12 on his last 4 games. In his last 6 games, I think he's 9 of 14 plus 6. So we're at 20. So at 9 of 20 plus 4, and then still very good percentage there. So, 13 of 20 his last 6 games. And this is against Phoenix, Utah, Portland, Minnesota, New Orleans, Memphis. So some good defenses there. This is as encouraging as news as we've gotten from Issac Okoro since he's been drafted about that 3-point shot. It's interesting, the timing of it. It's also his minutes have really spiked up, right? And I think that's one of the things we've said. When Issac is forced to start, he's actually pretty good. When he starts and he plays more like the guy that we saw at the end of last year that we had a lot of hope for. But it's when he's asked to hey, come off the bench for 10 minutes. He had a hard time figuring out that role with him. I still have worries about his overall length. I don't know if he's long enough to be a viable option there. And I think part of his problem with this team right now is that when Donovan Mitchell's out there, he really has nobody to defend, because it's not like you're going to switch off Darius to a 3 so he can guard another team's point guard, but he's not necessarily long enough to guard most wings that are 6'8", long wings, man. You can't really disrupt their 3-point shot as much as you would want, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the fundamental issue there. He is becoming a better player, though. I think he's finding himself as a player, and I think he's going to be I don't know if he's a 3-and-D wing, because, again, the length might be the issue, like a starting 3-and-D wing in the NBA, or a high-level one. But I do think there is a role for him on a lot of NBA teams. I'm not 100% convinced yet that role is for him for the Cavaliers, because I would still want somebody a little bit bigger in that role, because you don't have necessarily the greatest size at point or or at shooting guard. So that's the one thing I have there with him, because again, that length, it causes Evan Mobley, I would imagine his foul trouble nights spike up when Issac starts, because a lot of times what they have to do with longer wings is to put Evan on the wing, and when you put Evan on the wing, he's going to get in foul trouble, especially in the regular season. So that's what I worry about with Issac. But the better of a player he becomes.
What value do you think Issac has as a trade piece? Do you think there's other teams will also have that feeling that, oh, this is just a blip and he doesn't really have that capability after what he did at the beginning of the year? Or do you think that other teams could be convinced that there is some real decent value there?
Yeah, I think his trade value is interesting, right? Because I don't know what the market is for a dude like Issac Okoro, right? The league's kind of changing in a direction where they kind of want, those bigger wings. And when he was drafted, he was most certainly considered a wing, because 6'5" was definitely tall enough. But now it's definitely undersized, because Victor Wembanyama's on the corner. He's a 7'2" wing or something crazy like that. So it's hard to figure out which guys are going to be, which teams are going to be super excited for him. Maybe some teams might see him as a big 2, but he doesn't score enough to be a big 2. I worry about that. I think maybe a young team might be able to give up something, but I don't know if a young team has the abundance of wings that they're willing to just trade and grab one. So that's going to be the issue with including him on a trade, is because you want to trade him to get another wing, but who's going to trade for a wing to get rid of a wing?
Right. And especially like you said, at the level of shooting that Issac has, usually you want, if you're getting that wing, you want them to have a little bit more capability shooting the ball. So that's the one part where I understand people wanting to potentially move on from him and go in another direction. And I do still think, regardless of keeping him or not, we need to get more options at the wing position. But it is hard when it comes to actual trade value and what you can make happen at the end of the day. That makes me question if that's going to be the route they take.
Yeah, he's a very interesting topic. Let's talk about another interesting topic. The Evan Mobley. He has been balling. 17 points, 18 points. I think he had 21 night. Spectacular defense in the fourth quarter. I feel like a lot of fans do this. A lot of just basketball fans in general do this. But I feel like we do this a lot. We're we really hand wave the fact that he's one of the best defensive players in the NBA right now. We
Yes.
really don't
A
talk
year and
about
a half
that.
into his career, 1.5 years into his career. Like, that's not normal.
Yeah, and then like people keep talking about, oh, the leap wasn't as big as I expected, and the leap, but like it's like the leap for what? Because the leap
Right.
defensively has been there, right? Where it's like he was really good defensively last year for a rookie. You know, he was one of the better defensive players in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's like, oh no, like Rudy Gobert has fallen and Evan Mobley has risen.
Yes.
Like, it's a completely entirely different stuff. Like they have had sets out there where it was just like they were running Kevin Garnett stuff with him out there, like prime KG stuff where he's just like guarded everybody 1 through 5, rolling and then blocking a shot, running and getting a dunk on the other side. Like
Crazy.
And then like also the thing that I don't think people are talking about, like the jumper's starting to get there, right? Like the jumper's really starting to be more consistent, especially that mid-range floater kind of jumper thing. And I've noticed this. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. He looks like he's getting bigger as the season has
I
gone
literally
by.
was just thinking that, like, his shot creation right around the hoop, like he's going up stronger. Like, and I don't know if he looks bigger or if he's playing more confidently where his power going up. It feels like at first he was just kind of like a little bit more weak and just tossing the ball up, hoping it'll go in. Now he's like, I am powering myself up to this hoop to get the ball in. I think I agree with you. I think he looks bigger, stronger, all of that.
And a lot of like you can get strong at the gym, but a lot of like strength using it actively, like in functional situations, is believing you're that strong, right? Like
Yes.
to be able to do stuff, right? Because like I know I run into this. I was like a real skinny kid, and then I bulked up as an adult because like naturally that's just where my body wanted to be. But like I still in my mind think I'm a skinny kid. So like I'll like tap somebody and like think I'm joking around. They're like, yo, that hurts. You're like, you know what I mean? You're not like 110 pounds anymore. Like this hurts when you do this. Or I'll like move something, like it'd be like equipment and it breaks. I'm like, how did that break? And it's like, yeah, because you're a giant man, like ripping at this thing, like it's not like supposed to be temporary. So like I noticed that like with like even like small stuff like that with myself, was like, oh, you could have all this strength and spend all this time at the gym. It doesn't change your mindset though, right? Like you got to understand like you're a big man now, and I think that's what's happening with Evan. I don't know if he's gotten physically bigger, but he did get bigger in the offseason. Like that is a notable change where we like, I think it was like 10 or 15 pounds that he gained.
That opening press conference, I was looking at his arms the whole time. Like, Evan, look at you.
You can see it. Like if you look at broadcast clips from him this year and last year, like, oh no, Evan's not like skinny. Like he's starting to get some bulk to him. And I think what's happened lately is like, he realizes now he's stronger. Like I think he's probably had a couple games where he's moved around. I think that Joel Embiid game where he kind of shut him down was the one where he's like, I can move dudes, right? So now he's just operating like, yo, I can move you. Like you're not running through me. I'm a big guy. I'm gonna just block this shot real quick. And we're really seeing it in the fourth quarter where he's unconscious about it. And he's just had, I mean, spectacular. It's almost to the point too. Like there was a one play, I forget what game it was. I think it was the Portland game where they were on a fast break. It looks like, if you're not paying attention, Portland's about to get an easy 2 points here and then they're gonna get this fast break. But I saw Evan Mobley like hauling ass down the court and I'm like, oh, nah, this ain't going the way they think it's going to go. And I think he altered the layup attempt and then it moved and it got Caris. Caris ended up with the ball or something like that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, Evans made the leap defensively. Like, I don't know how much better of a defensive player he can become than what he already is. But if there's more to add to that, we're talking about crazy, like multiple defensive player of the year award level defender. But it's like whenever we talk about Evan Mobley making a leap, it's always focused on his offense. It's like, when is he going to be the best player offensively for this team? I think
people focus
something.
on his 3-point shooting still not being there. That's the one thing people want that he's not doing. And it's like, he's doing everything else better though.
And it's kind of like one of those things where it's like everybody focused on Giannis's jump shot to the point to where it's like you're not even paying attention to what he does do well. And I think that took until he won the championship in 2021. It was like, oh, his jump shot. Oh, his jump shot. And then he put up like 45 points in the game 7. You're like, maybe he don't need one. Like, Shaq never needed a jump shot because they just couldn't do anything about the hook. You know what I mean? So it's like with Evan, it's like, yeah, maybe he develops a 3. And the 3, like, it looks like the mechanics are there for that thing to drop once he gets more comfortable shooting it. So I'm not necessarily worried about that. Like, I think he can probably become a 25 to low 30% shooter there, which is all you need him to be. As long as he's not taking like 8 threes a game, you're fine.
Right. I think
But
people forget too that guys add things to their resume every single year they're in the league. Like LeBron, even into year 5, 6, 7, when he was in Miami, he was getting better at things still. You don't just, 2 years into the league, stop improving at the things that you're doing. So just because his 3-point shot hasn't gotten quite there yet, like he's going to have a long career in this league where I know he's going to continue to work in the offseason on those things, to add different things to his game and improve what he does. Literally the best players who have played this game continue to do that many, many years into their career, even though they started at such a high level.
yeah, like watching LeBron in 2018 versus like 2007, almost like a whole different person.
Totally. And he was the promised, like he was the chosen one coming out of high school. So you're like, he's already very good at what he does, and he still was adding things a decade later into his game. It's pretty impressive.
I was talking on Twitter. I'm like, look, LeBron's been playing, but like not retired, but like out of his prime long enough to where people are like kind of forgetting how good he was.
Yes.
But then I'm like, yo, like in 2007, he dragged a bad team to the NBA Finals, and then when you watch those games, you're like, man, LeBron's game was so like infantile compared to what it would become later in his career.
And he still
like,
did that.
It's like watching like a beta version of LeBron James, where it's like he don't got this jumper yet. Like remember his jump shot form used to be this weird leaning jumper where he had like half his body on his, like it wasn't even like that LeBron jumper that we're used to. Like so much of it's almost unfamiliar. Like honestly, like half of it happened in standard definition. So like it is unfamiliar for a lot of people, but it's like that's a special case. Like not everybody's going to evolve like LeBron, but like most players do evolve, right? Like Evan's going to add some stuff to his game. He's really only 21. And like even now, like we still thought that Jared Allen, who was a contender for Defensive Player of the Year last year, would still be the best defensive player. And now it's kind of debatable, like who's the best defensive player on the team.
Yeah,
and that's great because they're both really, really good, right? They're really good at different things, but they're both really, really good defenders. And I think that gets kind of like forgotten about because maybe Evan doesn't do the most shiny things, and now he's starting to do even that on top of everything else. And now he's also scoring in the clutch, and you also that feeds Jared Allen. And honestly, once they feel comfortable with him, like the one thing I worry about with him, honestly, is like he just, for whatever reason, he fumbles the ball easily. Like that's the thing with Evan. He doesn't have great hands yet for whatever reason. I don't know if he has small hands for his frame or if this is just like a hand-eye coordination thing, but he struggles with that. I think once he gets that cleaned up, if he gets that cleaned up, he'll be able to have more of the offense ran through him. And he has great vision. He can pass the ball to guys, get guys open. And that's what we mean by like the offense can be ran through Evan, where it's like Evan's not going to score 40 points a game or 30 points. He's not Donovan Mitchell, right? Like he does not have that bag offensively. But what he can do is score 22 and maybe like average like 6 to 8 assists. Like if he can get to 6 and 8 assists, 10 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, that's Jokic numbers. You know what I mean? Like that's what the peak Evan Mobley will probably look like, is like, hey, he puts up 20 plus a game. He gets you 10 plus rebounds or close to that, and then he puts up a high assist number for a big, and that allows the offense to flow around him, which allows everybody else to be more efficient. It's a new style, but like that's what people are doing nowadays. Like that's how Jokic won 2 MVPs. So I think it's also like when people like talk about Evan, it's an adjustment of expectations because we kind of think he's Giannis. He's not Giannis, right? Giannis has a different skill set, right? Giannis is a bull in a china shop, right? He is going to crash through everything, be stronger than you. And like Evan's a great athlete. Giannis is an insane athlete. Like you ever go back and watch young Giannis and you're like, oh my God, he was like dunking from the free throw line. Like I say young Giannis about a man who's 28. Like,
right. As if he's not also a child still.
Yeah, he's the same age as me. Like, but he's dunking from the free throw line. Like he's not that level of an athlete. But he's like Jokic, but much better defender, right? Like that's what he could become in the NBA. And I think, we run all over the place because like you could see Kevin Durant in him, right? I mean, not Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett in him, right? Defensively, you could see some Tim Duncan in his demeanor. So we tend to like focus on those two when it's like, oh, I can see where this game is developing, where he's not going to be, a offensive powerhouse, so to say, but he can get you enough points. And if you put the right things around him, you're going to have a very good team most of the time because it's hard to stop it when the 7-footer can see who you can't stop a pass from, can get the ball to everybody. And if he just whatever's bugging him with ball security, if he can get that figured out, I think that's really what unlocks him, because everything else, all the difficult stuff looks like the seeds are there for that to get, like once he's 24, that's going to happen for him. Right. It's just, that's the one thing where I'm like, hey, if anything hinders his potential, it's that.
Yeah. I think that's too why a lot of maybe fans like harp on him and feel like he hasn't taken that step forward, because when someone who's like 7 foot plus fumbles the ball, it looks so bad because they're so like lanky and it looks strange, where you're like,
or I would argue Caris LeVert. Caris LeVert has the most egregious fumbles.
Some brutal ones lately. He has had some brutal fumbles lately.
Like, that's what makes people mad about Caris. It's not like the nights that he puts up 0 points. It's them turnovers he be getting that be so like, bad. Why? How?
I think it was last night that there were a couple that were like, oof, Caris, what are you doing?
Like, when Caris is playing bad, it is
a
sight to, like, there was the one game where he would foul it. He is the worst 3-point defender of all time. Like, I get nervous when like we're only up 3 and Caris is out there, because I'm like, he is gonna foul. Like, if this were like the 2016 Cavs, that last possession with Mo Space was like, hey, just don't foul. Just don't foul him. I would take Caris out the game, dog.
Yeah.
Because he gets so close, and he's like, he doesn't realize he's long. He's a long guy. He's like 6'6", but he gets so close, and he's so long that it's like, it's so easy to just like get him to get like a hand in there and just like rip through and get an easy foul with him, because he's not necessarily, the thing with Caris is like, he's athletic, he has good feet, but he doesn't have a good idea of where his body is in relative to the court and other people. So like, his spacing and his depth is off, and that's just a recipe for fouls, and a recipe for turnovers, especially because like, he just remember Sasha Pavlovich?
Oh yeah.
It's almost Sasha Pavlovich levels. Like, you remember Sasha? Like, every time he drove, you're like, it's either going to be the most incredible and one you've ever seen, or like a ridiculous, egregious fumble. Like, and that's what happens with Caris, where it's like.
Yeah. They also come at the most inopportune times, where you're like, it's down the stretch, you're going on a run, you need to play, and Caris does something like idiotic like that. It feels like he just does it when it matters the most too. It's funny. Brutal.
We brought Caris on the team because he could dribble, pass, and shoot, and now I'm like, dog, just shoot. Just shoot. Like,
we don't need you to get involved in any other way.
I don't need you to take a pick and roll, dog. Like, just shoot. Just stand in the corner and shoot. Like, I think if the Cavs could replace him, they would replace him with somebody who could shoot. Just shoot. Right?
Yeah.
Like that. I think that's part of the reason why.
He does have those great nights where he's shooting so well, you know, where you're like, it claws you back in, where you're like, okay, maybe there is some value here. And then he has 5 straight games where he has like boneheaded plays, 9 points a game. And it's just like, why do we have this guy?
He's like the anti-Tobias Harris. Like, Tobias Harris will always get you 18 no matter what every night. And that's why he averages 18. Yeah. Caris LeVert will get you 5. He will get you 30. He will never score just 18 on a consistent basis. Like, that is what he is. And sometimes he can have a bad 30-point game. Like, it is incredible sometimes with him.
That's so true. He's like one of those guys that, like, because he'll make the boneheaded plays, but then have a good shooting night, and you're so confused on what you feel about him, which is a rare thing for a player to have, because most guys put up 30 points. You're like, great night for him. Not for Caris. Not always for Caris.
Yeah. Caris, man. I think Caris is better suited on a team that has less to lose.
It was a nice idea last season when they made the trade. Like, I feel like everyone was pretty excited in the moment. It felt like a decent move, but I just think with the evolution of this team, I'm not sure if there's a great place for him in this roster.
Yeah, he's like, I could deal with Jetty's turnovers because, like, we know why they happen. You know what I mean? Caris's turnovers are a bit more like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you could solve Jetty's turnovers by yelling at him and telling him not to dribble no more, and he just won't for like a quarter. But, you know.
And Caris, there's like trade value, I think. I feel like a lot of teams could convince themselves that like Caris is going to be really good for them, kind of like we did last year. So I feel like we could actually make something happen in a trade there.
You can see why somebody would want to swing a guard.
Because he does have the capability to shoot. Yeah.
Or like a point and shoot guy, or just a catch and shoot guy for Caris, because he can dribble and create.
Yeah.
For a
I
team
think it's different. Yeah, it's different than Issac, where like I feel like other teams might not see the value, even though you could argue Issac has more value than Caris, but in terms of trade, I think maybe there's more there that could happen with Caris.
If the Cavs needed like another center, Issac would make more sense to trade. But you're not going to trade a catch and shoot prospect for somebody who could already catch and shoot. Like that's just not going to happen for a lot, unless you put like a 3-team deal and like maybe you can get creative with it. But we'll see. Right. Kobe's pretty creative though. I have to give him his credit there.
He is.
We have covered it all, from Evan Mobley to Caris LeVert to Issac Okoro to people's thoughts on JB. Felt like this was a good podcast today. I want to thank Abby for coming on. You can follow her on Twitter at Abby_Mueller_. Also, subscribe to her podcast, This Girl from Cleveland, where she covers the Buckeyes. She covers the Guardians, and she covers the Cavaliers and the Browns, all 4 in one. You know what I mean? 4-1. There's going to be Jim Schwartz talk galore on that pod.
Oh, it's a good time. We love off-season Browns talk because we have all the hope and joy for the future,
You know what I mean? This is the best time. They can't let you down now.
My Super Bowl. Let's go.
You know what I mean? Like this is it might be the off season for everybody else, but this is our season right now.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah, and a lot to talk about with Ohio State, a lot to talk about just in Ohio sports general. So if you need a one-stop shop, make sure you check her podcast out. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music, even Tidal. So everywhere where MP3s are available, MP3s everywhere. Is that an old people thing now? Is MP3s an old people thing?
I feel like since I am a podcaster, I know MP3, but like to the general public, they might think that you are living in 2002 when you say that.
Yeah, like I'm like getting a thumb drive and putting like music on my that might be an old people thing. Wow,
it might be.
That
you might be old. You might be.
That made me feel incredibly ancient because like MP3s are still kind of new. But anywhere where audio files are hosted, she's there. Stitcher, everywhere else. So real easy to find a podcast. Also check out her SI Digest column where she talks about the Browns and everything else. Her links are in the description and on her Twitter as well. So make sure you give her a follow. I want to thank you for coming on. Thank everybody else for watching who make this podcast possible. Until the next time, let them know.